All right, hello YouTube, hello podcast, hello whoever is listening or watching this. My name is ELH, and I am the game master of a plethora of Star Trek Adventures content found on YouTube, Twitch, etc. Today, I am continuing my Antares Ship Yard project, where, because I need to make up for last week being skipped, I'm going to be doing 4 Spaceframes today. They are going to be the Fortune class from Jeffrey H. on Twitter. And that is a purely fan creation on his part. We'll get into that in a moment. Then next will be the Aegian class from Armada 2, Star Trek Armada 2. Then we have the Resolution class, which is basically a Kitabosh frame. It's another fan creation. And then we have the Premonition class, also from Star Trek Armada, Armada 1. Also, hello there, Lone Swift, hello. But yeah, as you can see, we're going to start here with the Fortune class. And when I took a look at this Fortune class, this is something that I've been following Jeffrey H. on Twitter. He's been working on this for quite a long time. And, you know, when he saw that I was doing this sort of thing, setting up space frames, he was immediately interested, and you know, I thought to myself, well, hell, why not? You know, this is a perfect example of a way to, well, you know, show off a fan creation while also showing how the Utopia Planitia rules work. So I'm just going to go through here kind of step by step, and I have what is this, a 3-page document that I'm going to try and condense into quick notes. So the first thing we need to do is we need to determine the number of system points that the Fortune class is going to have. And to do that, we need to know what year it entered service. And it appears that the Fortune class entered service in 2501. So by Utopia Planitia rules, what that means is that when you start in 2400, you start with 60 system points, and then you get another system point for every 50 years that has passed. So that would be 2501. That would be plus 2 system points in this regard. So we are dealing with 62 system points. However, before we start doing that, we also need to keep in mind the scale of the Fortune class. And from what I'm reading here in the design document, is that this is meant to be a battle cruiser, a large fleet battle cruiser. And from what I'm reading about all its armament and things like that, which we'll get to eventually, what I'm seeing is that this is meant to be a scale 7, not just in terms of size, but also in terms of just pure capability. It is meant to be a scale 7. So a scale 7 adds 3 system points. So we can start writing things down, because now we have a grand total of 65 system points, and we can start actually statting this thing. So let me see if there's any specific notes about, let's see here, anything specific about its systems. Okay, so I'm seeing that its structure maybe doesn't have to be that high. Interesting. It does appear to be highly versatile and agile. So, okay, its engines have got to be up there. Yeah, its engine. Yeah, if it's got QSD and transwarp, it's got to have a high engines. Its weapons have to be pretty high up there. And then ECM, so I'm thinking if it's got ECM, that's got to be computers and sensors. So let's just go through here and start adding in system points. Again, we have 65 to play with, which quick head math tells me that 6 into 66 is 11 almost in everything. So let's put 10 into everything just to start. And then we'll allocate those 5 extra points to reflect that. So obviously weapons, we're going to put it at 12. Engines, we're going to put it at 12. And then our extra point, I think we're going to put into comms. And then what we're going to do is, following the design dock rules here, we're going to take a point out of structure, because it is a hastily built ship. It is meant to be the quote-unquote new Excelsior class of the fleet. So I'm going to take a point out of structure, actually, and I'm going to put it into sensors in this regard. So that's a fairly nice frame overall, and it's also not going to be too overpowered once we start adding in shields and things like that. Now, the next step is we need to add in department scores, and each space frame has 3 department points to spend, and unless it has a system pod, which the Fortune class does not. So, we have 3 to spend, and I think almost instantly it is an obvious going to be a command, a con, and a security, based on what I'm reading. Exactly, Lone Squiff. Just as it's one of those things where, you know, the first few ships off the yard were probably like, I wouldn't say stalling. They wouldn't pull an Ensign Ricky, but they were prototypes for a reason, is what I would say. So now we actually have to look at talents here, and I'm going to very deliberately only give the ship 4 talents rather than 5 or 6. And the reason for that is, again, this ship, based on the design document, is meant to be a versatile, high-speed, rapid response capital ship in response to the Dominion and anti-Borg. So, what that's going to mean is that I'm thinking we're going to probably give it... Let me see, does this thing have saucer separation? I bet it does. Let's see. Well, first thing I'm noticing is it does have an entire backup warp core, so that's interesting. Let's find a good talent for that, because I think we maybe want to do redundant systems or secondary reactors in that regard. Let's take a look. Let us see. Well, if we do redundant systems, that would more or less enable it so we could give it QSD. But if we do secondary reactors, it would have more power. I think we would go in this instance, I think we need to do secondary reactors in this regard. So let's give it secondary reactors. Secondary reactors. And then, let's see. What else does this thing have going on? Got a bunch of attacks. It does have a highly advanced warp drive. Alright, so we do need to go up and give it... Where is it? Advanced. Did they get rid of it? Or is it just named something else now, where it used to be improved warp drive? There it is. Improved warp drive. That's what we want. So yeah, improved warp drive, because this ship is supposed to be able to do, as the author, as Jeffrey has put it, it's supposed to be able to do the Discovery thing, where it basically warps around the battlefield, shooting out like pulse phasers and torpedoes. In Discovery's case, they used the Spore drive to do it. For the Fortune class, Jeffrey had envisioned just a highly advanced warp drive could do this. So improved warp drive, and then we need 2 more talents here. I think rapid fire torpedo launcher is a no-brainer, because again, this is meant to be a torpedo vomiting ship, so rapid fire torpedo launcher. And then we also wanted to do ECM, or electronic countermeasures, to some regard. Let me see. I would say, because I know they added something new, or at least I thought they did. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Not high-resolution sensors, though maybe. Let me see. There it is, electronic warfare systems. We definitely want to give it the electronic warfare systems. All right, so electronic warfare systems. All right, and again, that is meant to be just 4 talents, because we want the other 3 to be selectable by anybody trying to actually do a full stat of the ship. Now, weapons are quite numerous for this thing. So I'm just going to list them off in order from what I'm seeing. Let me see. Torpedo vomiting sounds like something an Orc battlecruiser would do. Well, okay, an Orc battlecruiser wouldn't vomit torpedoes. They would just load Gretchens in the torpedo tubes and, you know, weird boys and just fire them literally out of cannons through the depths of space into the Imperial Armada. It is something the Orcs like to do, all things considered. But yeah, let's take a look. What in the world do we have here? So it looks like we need to have... Okay, this is what I'm looking for. Alright, so this thing has... phaser banks. Phaser cannons. And then it also has... photon torpedoes. Quantum torpedoes... What else does it have standard? It also has drones. Okay, so we need to do some kind of drones for this thing. So the question is, what kind of drones did he have in mind? Let me scroll back up here. Drones, or not drones. Are these drones? Oh, they're drones, not mines. I was thinking they were mines. Hold on. So if these are mines, or these are drones and not mines. Now, Orcs would just open the bay doors and hurl torpedoes by hand. I mean, they do that too. They literally would just kind of yeet them into space and hope they hit something. And that's why Imperial worlds tend to get exterminatus, because Orcs are just chucking torpedoes, and torpedoes eventually have to fall somewhere. So I think, actually, I'm going to go back, and instead of giving the Fortune class the drones or the mines, I'm actually going to go back and reading more things here. I'm actually going to give this a 5th talent, which I didn't want to do initially, but now that I read further into this design document, the Fortune class definitely would have a point defense system. But yeah, just had this vision of a giant head at the front of the ship with torpedoes. I mean, that's basically what an Orc ship is it's literally kind of an effigy to Gork or Mork or both that just kind of vomits lasers, torpedoes, Gretchens, etc. out of it. So that's what that's all about. But yeah, let me just double check my math here, make sure we're at 65. System points, yep, we are at 3 departments. We have 5 talents. All right, I think that Fortune class is done. And for those of you who actually want to read about the lore behind the ship, like normally I would go in depth and talk about, you know, how it's got a quantum singularity core, which I thought was really cool, how it has sort of a long-range vessel, a science vessel, how it's meant to be the 26th century Excelsior, how it's meant to be the Enterprise H. There's a lot of cool details in this that I just don't have time to go over in this stream, but I will, of course, post the design document up on Continuing Mission when I do the post for this. So if you are interested in doing the lore, head on over to Continuing Mission, and you can read the lore there as well. But yeah, that is going to be the Fortune class. So let me make sure I saved. And then we're going to open up the Aegean class. Make sure the good old Word document here loads up. All right, so the Aegean class is a fairly straightforward vessel. Kind of reminds me of an O-berth that has gotten rid of the ball and gone for a saucer, or maybe a Olympic vessel, or Olympic class, kind of that same sort of narrowed back with the 2 nacelles, but again, it has a saucer instead of like a ball. But for those who aren't aware, the Aegean class is from Armada 2, and it was a shield buffing. They dropped the ball, confirmed by ELH. There you go. Exactly. They were a shield buffing vessel. You would basically make a fleet of vessels, and you would throw like 1 or 2 of the Aegean class in there, and it was a force multiplier, all things considered. But yeah, So first things first, I'm going to say that this is a scale 4, based on what I remember the size being in Armada 2. So we don't have any extra system points there. My sources put the deployment date roughly at 2376, which, as far as I'm aware, means that we would start at... let's see... Chat gave Starfleet a complication and they dropped the ball. I love it. I love it. But yeah, where is that? Where is my lovely... Oh, I'm still in small craft. I'm like, where is my chart? There it is. All right, so 2200 is 40 system points plus 60. So that's another 6. That's 46. Gets us to... Hold up, I can math here. It's 100 years, gets us to 2300. So that's 50. And then we have 7 more, so this would have 57 system points, I think. Yeah, 57 system points. So, add that in there. And now we need to talk systems. Well, first things I can tell you is that this thing was not very beefy. It also really had some issues with defensibility. It definitely didn't have the weapons. So structure and weapons are definitely going to be low. But just to kick things off here, I think we are just going to, again, kind of put a standard amount in everything. So rough math, what is that? 9 points into everything. That gets us to 54. Yeah. All right, so let's put 9 points into everything. All right. And then we'll have 3 more points to spend. It's got to be comms for sure. Got to be engines, because, again, it was outputting shield stuff. And then I would also say computers in this instance, because it was sort of taxing the computers. Now, before we do the 3 department scores, I actually have to look ahead. And I have to see what a certain talent requires, because one of these talents it's going to have. Like, it has to have this. So let me see if I can find it real quick. Where are we? I'm scrolling the wrong direction. That would be why I can't find it. All right. So... here it is. Graviton field. Doing so. Okay, so here it is. It is the ablative field projector. And it is meant to project your shields onto another vessel. So it requires a difficulty 1 control. And okay, so it's actually not assisted by the ship. It's only a control security. Huh. Well, I was gonna stat this thing with the thinking that it needed a special ablative shield thing for the ship, but no, I don't think we need to do anything super special then. All right, I guess this would technically be a command, security, and engineering by my reckoning. Because that'll get you recharging energy and shields, projection of shields, and working in a fleet. And before I forget, we immediately need to give this thing, even though it technically doesn't meet the requirements, but hey, we don't listen to rules sometimes. So it has an ablative field projector. And then what else does this thing have? I guess we could give it advanced shields, but there might be something better that we could give it. Let me see if I can find improved. Here it is. Improved shield recharge. I think it's probably better. Improved shield recharge. And I think actually we maybe want to give it a special rule. In fact, yeah, let's give it the 2 talents. Those 2 talents, ablative field projector and improved shield recharge. From my remembering, it only had phaser arrays and photon torpedoes, but let's give it a special rule. And I think that special rule is going to actually speak to the ablative shield projector. Let me see. Is it a one-time energy pulse for the shield or a continuous stream? From what I remember, it was a pulse that you would hit once, and it was like a buff that went across your feet, across your fleet, is what I remember it being. There were certain, I think it was a Romulan thing that maybe had a continuous shield transfer beam. At least I think it was a Romulan thing, but that was a science vessel. The Aegean, more or less, how do I say this? The Aegean was just kind of a buffing ship, from what I remember. Yeah, it was a pulse. Okay, so I am remembering correctly. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to give it the special rule that... where is improved shield recharge? Here it is. All right, so I think what we're going to do for the special rule is we're going to say that for... if an enemy ship got in the way of the pulse, would it buff them instead? No, and that was something that you would think would be the case, where it's like, oh, you know, the enemy ship's in range, so it gets the buff too. No, it was deliberately coded to only work for you and allied ships, which was a very good feature, because if you buffed your enemy, you'd kind of defeat the point. So I think the special rule here is going to be that whenever the... what is this? The regenerate shields task is successful. How do we do this? That's what it was. It was the Shadow class was the one that had the shield transfer beam. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, small sidebar here. For the Shadow class, I usually took that shield transfer beam and I put it on mostly every other science ship because it was just that good of an ability. And I also made what were basically Latinum bombs in Armada 2, where I ramped up the Latinum carrying capacity on a freighter up to like 10,000 and had it just mine a full Latinum nebula. And then I just warped it into the enemy vessel or the enemy base and it would blow up. And the way Latinum explosions worked in Armada 2 was that it was a exponentially increasing explosion. So a 10,000 Latinum quote-unquote bomb ship would cover an entire large map. And usually, if you didn't have the Shadow Transfer Shield Beam, it would blow up everything, almost everything. So it was one of those things where you would have to turtle and have like 5 or 6 shield transferring vessels in order to keep everything of yours alive. It was that potent. But yeah, what is the wording I want on this? Because I want this to be something where when you regenerate shields... Oh, you know what? Let's maybe not do this. Let's just say this. Let's do this. As long as an allied ship is within medium range, because I think it went out to medium, or was it a very close range? Let's like close range, because I think medium's too much of a force multiplier. As long as an allied ship is within close range of a Aegean class vessel, that allied ship temporarily gains the improved shield recharge talent, and temporarily gains the improved shield recharge. This talent disappears if the Aegean class is out of power or has damaged engines. Oh, let's see. Let's actually has damaged engines or flies out of range. There we go. All right, well, there you go. There's the Aegean class. Very quick and to the point. You know, nice special rule there where if you keep an Aegean close, you get the improved shield recharge talent for free. I think that's kind of that's a force multiplier that also isn't broken and also kind of encourages you to, play around with fleets a little bit, even if we still need better fleet combat rules for Star Trek Adventures. But, we'll get them eventually. We'll get them eventually. All right, that's the Aegean class. Now, up next, we have the Resolution class. And let me make sure the Resolution... There we go. So, when it comes to the Resolution class, what you can probably see here is that it is a heavily inspired Prometheus and Voyager-style hull, where it is kind of sleek, it's got the quad nacelles, and in general... is a very nice ship to look at, in my opinion. But first things first, again, we're just going to go through the process. So it is a scale 4, because from what I could tell, this is a Prometheus class size ship, and the Prometheus class is a 4, and the Intrepid's a 4, so this is a 4. And from what I could tell, this is a 2380-ish space frame. So instead of 57, we now have 58 points. Now, the good news is when it comes to systems and departments, etc., we actually can have a bit of fun here because there aren't a whole lot of data on this. There's cool screenshots and cool art pieces, but the person who made this model didn't exactly stat it out like the Fortune class, like Jeffrey did for the Fortune class. So we kind of are going to be able to make up our own lore here. So, again, what we're going to do for sake of ease is we're going to, again, put 9 into everything. And that'll get us to a grand total of 54. And then, I see this thing and I think weapons, so I'm going to bump up 2 points there. And then structure, I'm going to bump up 1 point. And then I'm thinking probably computers is another good one to bump up to 10. Though, when I look at comms, I don't think it has good comms. Like, I look at this vessel and I think tactical. In fact, right there in the name, it's a tactical cruiser. So, I think I'm going to take a point away from comms and put it into engines instead. Let me see. Department-wise, I think we probably actually want to give this thing a security of 2 and a con of 1, meaning that it is a very tactically minded ship. It can pew-pew with the best of them. Now, the one thing I know has to be on this vessel is that this has to be capable of saucer separation. Now, you might be thinking, ELH, how could this have saucer separation? Well, if you look very carefully at the image here, you might notice that there's a seam that runs down the side of the vessel that kind of separates it in 2. And it is indeed meant to separate into 2 ships rather than the Prometheus class's 3. So we can't give it multi-vector, but we can sure as hell give it saucer separation. And the good news is separation is one of those talents that, does all the work for you. And it is sort of buffed by, structure and engineering. So, actually, you know what? Maybe we should take a point out of security and put it into engineering. That way, it at least is good at saucer separation. What else do we want to give this thing? I'm thinking... probably secondary reactors, or at least is what I would think. Because that would give it additional power. Yeah, I think, whenever you do saucer separation or MVAM, you probably want to have secondary reactors of some sort. And then I think we just sort of leave it be. We let the players and the GM do a talent from the mission profile and then a talent of their free choosing so that the resolution class can be pretty much whatever you want. But where we're really going to have sort of a new thing is I do want to give this thing some special weapons. So we are going to give it phaser arrays, and we are going to give it both photon torpedoes and quantum torpedoes. Saucer separation was never very well utilized in the TV series. Well, it was meant to be just sort of a cool, hey, look what we can do with our models kind of a thing. But from my understanding, the reason why it didn't really feature a whole lot was because it was a very costly process, or at least that's my understanding, where it just wasn't worth the time and effort to show off multi-vector saucer separation. So that's why they didn't really do it too much. But one thing I do want to give this tactical cruiser is I do want to give it a special type of mine, because mines are just fun. Mines are meant to be something cool. So we have a whole variety of mines that we can choose from, and I'm thinking that we can maybe give it, what is this? Gravimetric mines. And gravimetric mines are piercing 1 and high yield. So quite a big punch there. Quite a big punch indeed. ELH is obsessed with mines. Listen, you know, mines came out, and I just thought they were a very cool, addition to what you can do with a ship in Star Trek Adventures. So yeah, let me see. Gravimetric. Let me write down what page this is on. Page 82. Page 82. All right. And there we go. We have the Resolution class tactical cruiser. Bam. Done. We are actually way ahead of schedule. Maybe I should slow down. All right, so that is the Resolution class. Next, we have the star of today's session, or the premier class coming out of the Antares Ship Yard, is the Premonition class. Now, for those who don't know, I have already statted the Premonition class. In fact, some of the special rules I'm going to be taking from the one that's already on continuing mission. But this is going to be an update for the Premonition class. And again, I'm going to kind of take the continuing mission talents and weapons and all that and the special rules. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, again, sort of stat this thing as it should be, rather than the sort of guesswork that I had done before. So roughly we know that the Premonition class was made in a future past 2380, probably about 2410 or thereabouts. So I think we are just going to start with the grand total of 60 to begin with. So we're going to give this thing 60 to start with. It is a scale 6 though, so the scale 6 is going to have 62 system points that we can play with. And the reason I say it's a scale 6 is because the Premonition class in Star Trek Armada 1 was the same size as a Sovereign. Let me see. That's fair, but why even when they did use saucer separation, it was more of a gimmick than something, hey, we are twice as powerful. It was more half of this to fight and half of this to save civilians. That was another thing where they did it because, I mean, I'm trying to think of where they actually may have used it in combat, and the only one that comes to mind is the whole Locutus situation was really the only time they had it fight in combat. But yeah, it was definitely more of a gimmick. It was definitely more of a, hey, this is cool, rather than, say, the Prometheus class's multi-vector assault mode, which was an entire literal episode. So, yeah. All right, so again, for, you know, sake of use, I'm just going to put 10 in everything, so we get up to 60. We're going to immediately put 2 points into engines. I'm going to take away a point from probably weapons here, because it didn't really have a whole lot of weapons from what I remember. And I'm also going to take a point away from comms, because again, it wasn't the best comms thing out there. And I'm immediately going to put a point into computers and into sensors because of the temporal stuff. Now, the other thing we're going to do is, in keeping in line with the special rules that we're going to give this thing, is we are going to be giving it a high engineering and a high science, because for those who don't know what a premonition does, the premonition is meant to be a time ship. It is meant to travel around, and it more or less not only had the ability to send ships, not just itself through time, but it also had the special weapon of the Federation of Starfleet in Armada 1, where it could lock down an area and freeze it in time. And we'll get to that in a special rule. But basically, I think engineering science is what we need to do here. But what we're going to do is, one of the talents is going to be that special rule. Star Trek were University Century Gundam, the Prometheus would be a new type machine, all range attacks. I mean, the Prometheus it has a lot of cool analogs and a lot of media. I'm just glad that it's finally gotten some recognition. But yeah, let's see, where did I have? Here it is. So we're gonna say this is the temporal stasis field generator. We're also going to give this temporal drive. And then, what else do we want to give this thing? I think improved. We'll give it a 25th century talent here. Hold on. Let me see. We need to pick one that's nice. Maybe we can give it ablative shield? No, not ablative armor. STA mech battle sounds good. Mech battles in general are just fun to have there. Let me see. Interesting. So it doesn't actually have what I thought it would have. Unless I'm just missing it. Maybe regenerative hull? Maybe we give this thing regenerative hull? That's what I'm thinking. That are siphoning. Siphoning shields is very nice. I think we're going to give it regenerative hull, because this thing was very annoying to kill whenever you were playing the Borg. So we're going to give it regenerative hull. And what else do we give this thing is the question. I think improved warp drive. Okay, and that'll again allow 2 there. Weapons, it was actually a very tame ship when it came to weapons. It just had phaser arrays, photon torpedoes, and quantum torpedoes. Because it was just, again, it was just basically a sovereign class that was able to travel through time. But where the ship is going to shine is, again, in this, in these 2 talents that we're going to define here. So for the temporal stasis field generator, we're going to be, let's see. So we'll start with select a target within medium range, then test control plus engineering, assisted by the ship's computers and engineering at a difficulty of 4. On a success, a bubble expands outward from the target and encases all entities within close range of the target. Okay, so let me see. Entities, because I think that's the word we got to use here. Entities inside this field cannot act in any manner, effectively removing them from play. No, not from play. Effectively removing them from the turn order until the field effect fades after 1 round. Allies are not affected by this weapon. And we have to say this must be... let's say this. This is considered to be a tactical station action. So basically what that means is that in order for you to fire off the stasis field, you gotta take your tactical action for the turn and more or less, give up your attack to lock things down. But actually, the more I read this, we need to add a power requirement for this. This is a tactical action and requires... How much do we want to say? Let's say 5 power. Because I think, again, it's a temporary field, whereas temporal drive. And the reason we wanted 5 power for the field generator and all that is because the temporal drive takes up quite a bit of energy. So what I would say is that not only is this vessel is capable of time travel, it also can create temporal, let's not even gonna call it temporal, space-time gates. Let's say temporary space-time gates that can be used by other vessels. Let's see. Let's see, because this is where we want 10 power. By spending 10 power and testing control plus con, assisted by the ship's computers and con. And we're going to make this again a difficulty 4 at a difficulty 4. A temporal gate can be created within close range of the vessel. This gate lasts, let's make it 1 round. 1 round, during which up to 3 vessels of scale 6 or lower may enter it. The target time and destination must be declared prior to the gate's creation and cannot be changed once the gate is open. So what that's basically saying is that once you make the gate, you can't just like change it mid-turn or mid-round and be like, oh, I want it to actually be over here now, kind of a thing. What else do we need to say here? Oh yes, the time/destination can be a point in the current, let's say, maybe not say in the current, in the present, including spots on, including, I don't know, how do we want to say this? Can be a point in the present, including earlier rounds of starship combat. Good luck to your GM if you raise that sort of hell. All right. And yeah, it does sound complicated, and that's why, let me maybe put a big disclaimer here. In other words, ask your GM. Because, hey, if Wizards of the Coast can pawn off GMing onto people, I can pawn off a little bit of work onto anybody who wants to run a Premonition class. Because, again, Temporal Drive is meant to be a, kind of a feature of the vessel. But it's meant to be something where you work with the GM. Because if you don't ask your GM when you're dealing with time travel, you're just going to have a bad time overall. All right, well, with that, everybody, that's actually going to be the end of this second session of the Antares Ship Yard. We'll answer questions for a few more minutes, and then we'll end. Sounds about right? Yeah, it's for the Premonition class, it's one of those things where, I think the only time it showed up in my canon in the ELH universe is Fleet Admiral Ignitrix has her own, the USS Deja Vu. Used to be the USS Tidor, but now Iggy has christened it the Deja Vu. Is it the same vessel? Is it a different Premonition class? I leave that to your imagination. Does Iggy ask for permission? No, she just goes wherever the hell she wants, and I pick up the pieces. Would you be fine reviewing someone else's design? I tend to not do reviews of other people's designs on stream. I'm sort of okay with maybe doing it in private, but I don't want it to be something where I'm putting someone on blast or otherwise like red penning someone's work on stream, because there's a certain, not stigma, but there's a certain weight that comes with doing something on stream versus doing it in private. It's kind of one of those, do you think you're, and this, I might have to rephrase this, but doing it on stream would basically require the person submitting their thing for review said, I think this is good enough to understand, to withstand the scrutiny of the public, kind of a thing. So, I mean, maybe I can do that sort of thing. Maybe. I would just say maybe ask me in private if you have a design you want me to look at. But it's definitely not something where I don't want to make it a focal point of the shipyard. Because otherwise, again, things get very complicated very quickly. But yeah. All right. Well, YouTube, this is where we're going to say goodbye. And Twitch, stick around because we're going to... oh, hold on. What about the general thought of a sovereign inquiry-sized ship that MVAMs like the Prometheus? So, Spider8604, welcome to the channel. There is a ship that does do that. I don't know how to say this, but if you're at all familiar with Theurgy or the Theurgy project, the Theurgy is basically the ship that does MVAM and is sovereign. In fact, no, I think it's bigger than a sovereign. I think it is the oh god, what is the name of the vessel? It is the what is the name of this thing? It is, let me look. The Odyssey, that's the name I want. It's a large ship. It's bigger than the Odyssey. So I mean, I could do the Theurgy ship. My only concern about doing Theurgy is I don't know who to ask over there for permission to do it. I mean, technically what I'm doing is fair use, and I don't have to ask for permission as long as I don't claim it's mine. But I don't want to, you know, make anybody over at the Theurgy group mad that I'm statting their ship. Because there's a marked difference. You know, Jeffrey H., the Fortune class developer, he deliberately asked, like he sought me out and said, hey, I really want you to do this. Whereas with Theurgy, yeah, there's a lot of material out there. I can probably very easily make a vessel based on it. But I don't want to anger anyone over there. So maybe. Now, outside of Theurgy, would I like to see a vessel that is the size of a Odyssey or a Sovereign and MVAMs? Yes, I am a big fan of ships that do MVAM in general. But the problem is finding a appropriate model or an appropriate design that can multi-vector. Because the Prometheus and the Theurgy are deliberately designed for multi-vector. Whereas if you try to do it from scratch, and as TechNerd and I have found out, we have tried making our own MVAM capable ship, and we have no idea what we're doing. We have no idea how to make a vessel properly MVAM. Like, we had a few ideas, such as like a main ring drive that had maybe backup nacelles that split into 3. And then there was one design that was like a bottle cap opener. But overall, I would have to find someone who is willing to basically take what Theurgy did for their vessels, or their vessel, and design me something new that isn't just another Prometheus class. Because that's sort of the pitfall we fell into with TechNerd and I fell into, where it was just basically another Prometheus class. It wasn't unique. But yeah, I like the thought, Spider. Thank you for getting that in right before I ended the recording, because I'm sure some people are curious. But yeah, I think now is where I'm going to end the recording for YouTube. And Twitch, stick around, because we're just going to chat for a little bit longer. But YouTube, bye-bye.